almost as good as a jingle. Nowhere near. Actually, this is a live appeal brought to you by Penny Appeal here. It's our winter emergency appeal. More importantly than me, Ahmed Bostan, joining me here in the studio, I have one of Peterborough's best general practitioners, your favourite general practitioner, the one that you hear on your radio every single week, Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. It's such a wonderful honour to be here. How long has it been, Brother Ahmed?
It's been a very long time. Has it been a year?
No,
has it been 6 months?
It's been 2 years.
2 years.
Honestly.
Wow, 2 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
It really is.
Absolutely. How are you keeping? Are you well?
Alhamdulillah. It's good. It's been very busy, obviously, with Salaam Radio and trying to come up with different ideas for shows, innovative topics to discuss and get some really good guests on. And I think it's my second family. I always say that.
Mashallah.
Salam Radio is my second family, mashallah. And I think that the work that they do is absolutely amazing.
Incredible. And it's brilliant to see how well Salaam Radio has come on. I think I was on Adrian Holstock's show on Thursday, and I was really impressed by that program. You've got so many new shows now. It's incredible to see how fast 2 years have gone. But coming back to today, we're here with the winter emergency appeal. Now, mashallah, you are a medical professional. You understand the needs of medicine and medical affairs far better than I and most of our viewers and listeners.
Yes.
The winter months, how detrimental or what sort of risks do people face during these months, particularly the homeless on the streets of Peterborough?
Well, I think it's a really good question that you've posed to me, Brother Ahmed. In 2017, the children and I set about raising funds for winter packs for the homeless within Peterborough. And we had a target to raise packs for around 55 to 56 homeless people. And the children were very passionate about it. And they set about raising over £1,000 that then got distributed to homeless people within the United Kingdom.
Wow.
But coming back to your question, there are a lot of risks, first of all, with people that are living on the streets, not just within the United Kingdom, but anywhere in the world subjected to sub-zero temperatures or near zero temperatures. So the things that we think about, obviously, are conserving heat within the body.
Yes.
When the human body itself has a certain layer of fat as insulation. When you're subjected to homelessness, you're obviously aware that your nutrition isn't optimal, your hydration isn't optimal, the fat layer that you have in the body that helps to conserve whatever heat that you have isn't optimal. Therefore, the potential to lose that heat is a lot more faster than any individual that lives with a roof over their head and adequate heating.
Yes.
That then leads to circulation problems because the body is unable to conserve its own heat. Due to the cold, your circulation becomes sluggish. If your circulation becomes sluggish, we worry about the extremities such as your hands and your feet, and as a result of that, you can suffer from something known as frostbite. Which means that you have a lack of circulation to the ends of your fingers and toes, and the tissue in the ends of your fingers and toes, because it's depleted of that circulation, it can then become something which is known as necrosed. The tissue can die, and you can suffer from things like gangrene. So those are the risks. First, that's one of the risks that the homeless are exposed to. Then obviously you have all the ills that come along with winter. Indeed. So flu. Yes. And if you're out on the streets, you are exposed to many environmental infections. So we're looking at things like pneumonia, even tuberculosis. The increase of tuberculosis and TB has increased within the United Kingdom over the last recent years. So we're looking at a plethora of health problems. And to be very honest, when you look at the homeless on the streets, you see a lot of them smoking. And that's because they're trying to keep warm. And in fact, if you've ever taken time to speak to these homeless people, and I can assure you that I have, a lot of them say, well, we smoke because we want to keep our minds and our emotions psychologically numb, so that we are oblivious of the physical pressures faced with the environment.
So sad.
And it's even more sad that many of the homeless people turn to drug addiction. You know that it's a particular vice within the city and within big cities, in fact, anywhere in the United Kingdom. And a lot of them can't help but to be positioned in this vulnerable state. And they are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to other human beings. They're vulnerable to the environment. They don't have the help that they need. And thus they then resort to measures whereby they feel, because they see no way out, they feel that we're going to numb our emotions psychologically so we don't feel the cold, we don't feel the repercussions of infection and illness. And this is why we're here today, aren't we?
Absolutely. And actually, just listening to you talk there, Dr. Shabina, I look around the world and I see the amount of children in particular that are psychologically traumatized by what they've been through. I look at Gaza, for example, where over 400,000 children are literally psychologically ruined because of the fact that they've been through war and conflict. And now, as you say, winter, I mean, I had no idea that winter could be linked to conditions like gangrene, and we've all seen the horrific images of what happens when that happens, and the amputations and other things that have to take place. And brothers and sisters, you're listening to us tonight, do not do so from a position of being a spectator and thinking, how sad is this? Let's do something about it. Provide a winter warmer pack today. It contains clothing, food and blankets, and it's just £100. And we've got 4 more families that need to be helped. Peterborough 602 133. Come to the studio, come to the Alam Bar Centre, drop off your donations, inshallah. Have a bite to eat with us as well. Have one of Usman's famous chais as well. Come and have a chat with us. We'd love to see you here. Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum is also with us for a limited time, so if you want to see Dr. Shabina as well and give salam to Dr. Shabina, please do come down to the studio. I just want to ask you, Dr. Shabina, in relation to our packs that we're providing, the £100 packs which contain food, clothing, blankets. These are the 3 things that our teams on the ground have selected as the biggest needs, and we call them the Izzah packs. The respect and dignity packs. What impact do you think packs like this have in the winter months, particularly in countries such as Syria, Palestine, the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, etc.?
Well, it brings tears to my eyes just to think, as you said, that children could be exposed to environments where war is rife. They are not only thinking about the next moment, whether they would be alive or not, or subjected to air raids or bombings, but it actually does break my heart when we speak of these young children and their families that are subjected to such an environment, and on top of that, the state of Mother Nature when it wreaks havoc upon the land, bringing with it sub-zero temperatures and cold and actually harsh and ruthless environmental conditions in which these families have to live. And these packs would come as a life send. They really would. They would be a lifeline to such a family. I can imagine myself. So in medicine, whenever we treat a patient ethically, we would always put ourselves in the position of the person that's in front of us. You look at them, and certainly I do. I can't speak for anyone else, but when I look at someone, I think, would that be my mother, father, brother, sister, cousin? How would I, number one, speak to them, and how would I treat them? And in the same way, if I, as a mother, first of all, think of my 4 children who are at home right now, subjected to the nice warm temperature. It's around 24, 26 degrees within the home with a full central heating on. And we've got a warm, home-cooked meal. I'd just like to put that into comparison with our listeners, to imagine somebody who may or may not have a roof over their head, and within the next couple of seconds is subjected to a snow shower or a blizzard, because it does snow. It does snow there. Then they've got to struggle with lighting a fire in those damp conditions, which isn't easy yet again.
Absolutely.
Keep themselves warm. And after that, think about where their next meal is going to come from. So I'm assuming that these packs would contain dry provisions of rice, of wheat, whereby people can use these provisions and make soups out of them, boil rice, which would then give the much needed energy in the way of nutrition that these children need. We're living in a developed first world country. We are talking about the third world country over here, and small children that we can do nothing for. And I just want to give you a personal account of my past when I was younger.
Yes.
We hit a time, and I've told this very many times, and I've become a lot braver being able to speak about this, and I feel no shame in saying this. But we hit a time of poverty when I was little. We were 6 and 7. And I can remember that we had everything taken away from us, and my parents were walking us to school, and I remember it was winter time, and I promise you, Brother Ahmed, we didn't have any socks on our feet. We were wearing shoes, and we were walking on ice, and I can remember as a little child my hands freezing and my feet freezing, and we were going to school. This is the United Kingdom within a first world country.
Yes.
And I can remember my dad enveloping our hands to keep them warm, and my little brother was far more colder than what I was, and I would say to him that just imagine we've got a fire lit in front of us, and just imagine the heat that's coming from it so that you don't feel as cold. And I can remember us doing that. And I can tell you that at that time, when I used to get into school, I would suffer from chilblains as a child, which were blisters on the hands. And I can remember putting my hand on the radiator and not wanting to move from there, so not wanting to do my work, because I valued what warmth was and what a blessing it was. So you can imagine that these children have nowhere to go. They've got no haven. Many of them have been orphaned.
Yes.
And the least that we can do, this is the opportunity here within Peterborough. I tell you, we talk a lot about the state of Palestine, the state of Gaza. We talk a lot about it on social media. We use a lot of our airtime to express our frustration.
Yes.
But here is something that you can actually do that's going to be constructive.
Absolutely.
Whereby your donations will go towards a food pack. And I'm sat here the next half an hour in the studio. Do you know, I would love to talk to you. I would love to speak to you. I would love to meet you. It'd be so nice if you could come. When I do my shows, we don't get to talk to each other, but this is such a wonderful opportunity for you all to come here, and I'd love to talk to you. Bring your kids. I love children. I'd love to see them. I'd love to talk to them, ask them what they're doing in school, what they like, what they don't like. But it'd be wonderful to bring you on board, so please do.
And mashallah, Dr. Shmir, you yourself are a role model, because mashallah, I remember all those years ago when I first came to Salaam Radio, it was yourself and your wonderful children who were the first to come in, and your children came forth and set the example for other children, took the initiative. Now I know that mashallah, you've got some very bright children. May Allah give them a long and prosperous life. I mean, they took the initiative and have since, following your social media, taken the initiative on so many things, whether it's raising funds for people abroad or even raising funds to support people here in Britain. But this is tarbiyah. This is how we as parents can bring up our children, to teach them the importance of giving charity. So that day when we can no longer give charity ourselves, either because we're no longer on this earth or we're unable to do so because we're retired and we're pensioners, or we're no longer as financially able as we perhaps are today, they can give that sadaqah in our name by calling that lifeline now on Peterborough 602 133. That's Peterborough 602 133. That's your studio number. You're familiar with it. Or by coming to the Allama Iqbal Centre, you can do that. And I was so touched by the story that you've shared there, Dr. Shabina, and thank you very much for sharing it, because actually it puts into perspective just how much we have. And actually sometimes when we have plenty of something, we have plenty of food, plenty of heating supplies, plenty of, mashallah, very nice coats and gloves and scarves that we can put on, we really take that for granted and we forget just how much of a rarity this is in the world. For example, in the Yemen, a child dies every 10 minutes. One child dies every 10 minutes. I mean, what, we've been on the air since 5 o'clock now, and it's what, 6 something now? I can't remember. And so at least in this past hour, over 6, 7, 8 children have lost their lives, have died a preventable death in the Yemen alone.
Yes, and it's heartbreaking. It really is. I mean, with regards to Yemen, I do feel very strongly about it, simply because of the fact that I feel that those people, like many in the Muslim world, have been subjugated to a situation not of their doing. Innocent people, innocent children, innocent mothers and sons. And you know, we go on social media and we scroll and we scroll and we scroll and we see these pictures and we shake our heads. And I can assure you, Brother Ahmed, that in each of us that goes and scrolls past those photos, there is an iota of mercy that cries out from within our hearts and say, what can we do?
No doubt.
And actually, this is your opportunity to do it.
Yes.
So if you want to, a child dies every 10 minutes, the same age as any of our children could be. So if you really do want to make a difference, to get some, there are teams out on the ground in Yemen, in Syria, in Gaza. It's winter. I've seen a photo of Masjid al-Aqsa clad in snow, and somebody remarked, how beautiful does it look? And it does, subhanallah.
Yes,
it looks very beautiful, but we can say that we have the privilege of being able to appreciate its beauty, but not for those people that are there, that are suffering, who want that they can live in freedom, who want that they are not subjugated to the effects of war and to the ills of war, and having to look out for their life every single second. You know, we have a duty of care towards those people as human beings first, my brothers and sisters. So
most certainly. So come on, brothers and sisters, listen to our sister Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum, who's with us, Salaam Radio's very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum, who's taken time out of her weekend, who's taken time out of her day with her family, with her other commitments, to be here because she feels so passionately, as we do, as you all do, about the fact that we can make a difference. Dial that number now, Peterborough 602 133. As I said, there's 4 more families I want to get supported ASAP. Mashallah, the first family has been supported, has been provided with an Izzah pack which contains food, clothing and blankets, but we are looking for 4 more families, inshallah. And I was actually taken aback when I looked at a blanket, just a simple blanket, Dr. Shabira, and how that blanket can make a difference. We just look at it and we think, oh, it's just a blanket, you know, you wrap it around yourself, but this blanket is a way in which a mother can be close to her children. And as a mother yourself, Dr. Shabina, many of these families in whatever country we look at, whether it's Syria, Pakistan, Palestine, the Rohingya refugees, over 800,000 of whom are now in Bangladesh, many of these families are women-led, mother-led families.
Yeah.
As a mother yourself, how important is it for us to support mothers in a situation where obviously they have no way of working, and in a culture where obviously women don't work, where men are the breadwinners for many of those households in many of the countries we talk about?
So the first thing that comes to mind as a mother is the fact that a woman's dignity is very important to her.
Yes, subhanAllah.
And in the plight of such perilous conditions within these areas, a woman feels often very helpless about how she can provide for her children in the way of food, in the way of just nurturing and comfort. And that's the first instinct that comes to a mother's mind when she wants to give something to her child, emotionally, physically, in the way of food and drink, nutritionally. And when you're in a helpless situation such as that, and not to forget, brothers and sisters, that there are women there who themselves will go hungry in order to feed their children, number one. 2, are unable to, like Brother Ahmed has said, that are not breadwinners, therefore cannot work.
Yes.
But in such a condition where you don't really have a roof over your head, or even you might, they may want to contribute by, say, sewing or stitching clothes, etc., but don't have the means to do so. That's the second issue I'd like to bring in front of you. The third thing I'd like to bring in front of you is we must never forget the health of a mother herself.
Yes, subhanAllah.
Now, healthy mothers make for healthy families. If a woman is not physically healthy, she cannot look after her children. There are mothers there that are pregnant and expectant neglecting and do not have the correct amount of nourishment. Then you have the mothers that have just given birth, and such a great emphasis is laid on a mother's health in her confinement when she gives birth, and often she is treated with respect, she is treated very gently, she is basically she's doted upon by family members within our religion and taken great care of with a great deal of emotional sensitivity. And you can imagine the emotions of such a woman who has given birth, who is devoid of nutrition, devoid of heat and warmth, and then has no milk to give her child, is not able to breastfeed. How would we feel as mothers not being able to do that and not being able to provide for our child? And I'd like to draw my sisters that are watching today, I'd like to take your memory back to those moments when you first met eye to eye with your newborn child and your newborn baby. And I'd like to ask you how special those moments felt to you. Just take a moment to absorb that in, because for me, I remember, if anything else I would have forgotten, it's an extremely difficult time giving birth, but after that, when your child is born and you see your newborn child in your arms, and the first look that you make with your child, you will remember that for the rest of your life, and how you felt as a mother towards that child. Motherhood changes you, by the way, and it changes your whole life. And in view of that, I would then like to ask you that, is it wrong for me to say that the level of love that comes forth for that child is completely unconditional? It's indescribable. It is like no other love that you would have described.
Subhanallah.
The next thing I would like to say is that, do you not have an unshakable desire to protect that child and to nurture that child?
Of course you do.
Would you not sacrifice your nights waking up after every few hours or minutes to tend to that child if that child is unwell?
Subhanallah.
And you would have the provision and facility to do so living in the United Kingdom.
Yes.
But I tell you, my sisters, that these factors that I've put in front of you right now, the women in Syria, Gaza and in Yemen don't have those privileges.
No.
And they're unable to, and they become emotionally torn.
So true.
And suffer from trauma.
Absolutely.
So let's be generous. Please donate towards a winter pack at least. If every home within Peterborough that's watching this today was to donate at least towards one winter pack, you would be providing shelter and provisions for a child and for a mother that has a family who she can provide and cook for, and at least ease her of this mental trauma that she has to see her children subjected to every day.
Absolutely, and you can do that right now by picking up that phone and calling Peterborough 602-133. The Allama Iqbal Centre is where we are. Please come down. And Dr. Shabina, what you say is actually an experience that no brother out there will be able to empathize or understand.
No.
But all of our sisters who are mothers that are watching and listening to this program now can empathize with the over 70,000 out of the 800,000, over 70,000 women living in the refugee camps of Bangladesh. Rohingya women are now pregnant. They're expecting children or have recently given birth to children in those conditions. You know, these are mothers who literally fled Myanmar. They fled with bullets to the right, bullets to the left, bullets in front and bullets behind them, maybe with one of their children in their arms, the other by their side and the other by their other side, not knowing whether their children would even make it. And subhanAllah, what breaks my heart completely, Dr. Shabina, is that these are victims of war that have survived war.
Yes.
These are victims of brutality, of oppression, that have survived brutality and oppression. How sad would it be? How regrettable would it be? How heartbreaking, and what a big blight on our humanity would it be if these same communities, these same vulnerable individuals are taken away by simply the winter cold. And I certainly could not live with my conscience knowing that £100, something as insignificant to us as £100, could save their lives and address their needs. And I think even as Muslims, as humanitarians, we always say that when we give in such a way to look after all of the needs. You know, we need food as much as we need clothing. We need clothing as much as we need blankets when we go to bed at night. And actually, they need it far more than we do in the conditions that they are experiencing.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And just to give you a bit of an example, we are so privileged that I have blankets in the boot of my car. My children, when I go to pick them up from school, they sit inside the car and they don those blankets over them because that's their comfort zone. And actually there are children of their age that are denied that privilege, and they are denied. The reason why I say that word denied, because their childhood has been snatched away from them from factors that are not of their doing. And this is an environment where we can talk about it, brothers and sisters. On the Open National Forum, I've often seen on social media, when you debate such ideas, you will get a plethora of views coming across to you. Oh, because it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. But actually, we are here because we share a common purpose.
Indeed.
And that is to benefit people that are more in need of this charity than we are.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
We will spend £3, £5 on a magazine or on a newspaper. But it is extremely important that we come together as one ummah tonight, the people in the city of Peterborough, and you are generous people. I've seen this before. Yes. Please don't fail those children. Please don't fail those children. Please come forward. My children are watching tonight. My husband has just called me before I went on air, and he said to me, right, we are going to be donating.
MashaAllah.
And tonight we will be donating because we want to help these children.
Bless you.
And
reward you.
The thing is, I'm not going to disclose what the amount is, but it's just an initiative, and it's to set an example that together we are better.
Coming up to that break, Dr. Shabina, thank you so much. Please take inspiration from those words. Dial that lifeline, Peterborough 602 133. Back after this break.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad.